Welcome to this program on WikiLeaks and the First Amendment. WikiLeaks is an international nonprofit organization that publishes submissions of private, secret, and classified material from confidential sources, news leaks, and whistleblowers. It was launched in 2006 by Julian Assange, an Australian internet activist. In 2010, WikiLeaks published secret footage of a 2007 American helicopter attack in Baghdad that killed several Iraqi journalists. And later that year, and in early 2011, it published some 480,000 previously secret documents about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, 779 secret files relating to prisoners detained in Guantanamo Bay, and 77,000 classified State Department cables. It was the State Department cables that created the firestorm about WikiLeaks. Although WikiLeaks made some effort to redact the most dangerous or harmful information in the State Department cables, critics of WikiLeaks say it did so recklessly. Thus, although the released cables contained a lot of innocuous and uninteresting information, some of the information turned out to be very enlightening and helpful to public understanding, while some of the other information proved to be harmful to the national interest. An example of the latter was that the American ambassador to Mexico was forced to resign under Mexican pressure because WikiLeaks disclosed a cable to the State Department in which he had said that the Mexican army had been risk-averse in going after drug traffickers. Another example is that the Prime Minister of Zimbabwe, an opponent of the despot, Robert Mugabe, is now under investigation for treason in Zimbabwe because one of the classified cables released by WikiLeaks reported a statement that he'd made to the U.S. ambassador to the effect that the U.S. should continue its sanctions against his country. WikiLeaks received all of this information, all of the State Department cables, that is, in a data dump from PFC Bradley Manning, who had access to the State Department cables through his job in the Pentagon. Manning is currently being held in military custody in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and the United States government is apparently continuing its investigation of WikiLeaks, Assange, and other persons associated with WikiLeaks to determine whether they can be criminally prosecuted consistent with the First Amendment to the Constitution. Needless to say, this all raises terrific and interesting issues, and rather than taking any more time myself introducing them, what I'd like to do is to turn the program over to our three experts, each of whom will speak for about 10 minutes on whatever facet of this controversy they find interesting, and then the four of us will chat for a bit before turning the floor over to you. First, though, let me say a word about our speakers. In general, I believe in very brief introductions, but these are such extraordinary people that I couldn't bring myself to offer just a one-sentence explanation. Judith Miller is an author and a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter who worked for the New York Times from 1997 to 2005. She's now an adjunct fellow at the Manhattan Institute and a contributing editor of its magazine, City Journal. Since 2008, she's been a commentator for Fox News, speaking on terrorism and other national security issues, and on the need to strike the balance between protecting both national security and civil liberties in a post-9/11 world. Prior to leaving the New York Times in November 2005, Judy spent 85 days in jail to defend a reporter's right to protect confidential sources in the Valerie Plame controversy. That year, she received the Society of Professional Journalists First Amendment Award for her protection of sources. Judy's written 4 books, including Germs, Biological Weapons, and America's Secret War, God Has 99 Names, which explores the spread of Islamic extremism, and Saddam Hussein and the Crisis in the Gulf. Our second speaker, Judge Richard Posner, is the most influential legal thinker of the past half-century. Both as a judge on the United States Court of Appeals and as a scholar at the University of Chicago, Dick has changed the way people think over and over again. He has published more scholarly books than Shakespeare published plays. including, among many others, several directly relevant to today's program, including Preventing Surprise Attacks, Intelligence Reform in the Wake of 9/11, Not a Suicide Pact, Rights in Time of National Emergency, Uncertain Shield, the U.S. Intelligence System in the Throes of Reform, and Catastrophe, Risk and Response. And just to give you some sense of the extraordinary breadth of Dick Posner's mind, let me add some other books that he has published: The Crisis of Capitalist Democracy, Sex and Reason, The Essential Homes, The Problematics of Moral and Legal Theory, The Economics of Justice, How Judges Think, and Law and Literature, to say nothing of his books on antitrust, on the Clinton impeachment, on Bush versus Gore, and a host of other topics. The third speaker, Gabriel Schoenfeld, is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute and the author most recently of Necessary Secrets: National Security, the Media, and the Role of Law. Gabe writes frequently on national security and intelligence issues for the Wall Street Journal and the Weekly Standard, and his op-eds, book reviews, and articles appear regularly in such journals as the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the New Republic, the Atlantic Monthly, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, and Der Spiegel. From 1994 to 2008, Gabe served as senior editor of Commentary, and before that, he was a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and served as a staff member for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Gabe is currently on leave from the Hudson Institute, serving as a senior advisor to the Romney for President campaign, where he is chief speechwriter, although he speaks today in his individual capacity. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Judy Miller.